I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask?
It's too big.
Back and to the left. 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 Back and to the left.
What's up, everybody? Half a God's Face podcast is back. Year of our Lord 2026. So Lindsey Graham definitely died before we did our last podcast, right? For the Odyssey? Or is that more recent?
Lindsey.
I think we just didn't even bring it up on the Odyssey episode. So
Anyway, it was definitely before, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. I want to apologize to the family of Lindsey Graham that we didn't give a shout out to that wonderful Southern belle, that Southern gentleman who's now probably was blown to bits in a Ukrainian drone factory, and then the government's covering it up. But anyway, that's not why we're talking today. We're here to talk about the new Nicholas Winding Refn movie, Her Private Hell. Yay! No, and then Charlie XCX dropped a new album as far as things that are happening, and it's Lollapalooza out here
Ooh.
in the city. So we're gonna be assaulted by people from the suburbs and people on Molly and all that kind of good stuff this weekend.
Don't catch the train for like the weekend. Just ignore the train, get an Uber.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know how much of an option I'm gonna have. I'm just fucked. I'm just gonna like have to get on the train at different times. It's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are very excited for this episode. I was kind of getting prepared because I had like I just had like a feeling when Her Private Hell premiered at Cannes, and there were all these like photos of the premiere, and there were clips going around from the press conference. Like Nicholas Winding Refn like broke down in tears at the press conference because he almost died a couple years ago. Like maybe 2024, 2025, if I had to guess. It sounds like he like had like this health situation where he had to get like kind of a crazy surgery, and he just wasn't sure if he was going to survive. So
yeah, he basically had to like handle the business of it and like say goodbye to his family, he was saying.
Yeah, he had to get his affairs in order and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, thank God he like survived, but it was kind of a moving, it really amazing moment of him like basically, saying like make films for like the next generation like to appreciate. And there was just something about like the aura of him back at Cannes with it's his first feature film since The Neon Demon, because he did multiple like series, and it just occurred. And it occurred to me, I'm like, man, I really haven't seen his films in way too long. So it just it really finally pushed me. And then, I think at the premiere, Sophie Thatcher was crying too. Of course, it's another insanely like divisive Refn, as in most people fucking hate it and the critics hate it. But it just really drives me up a wall, because when people have these kind of reactions, like Refn is very emotional, and then Sophie Thatcher is emotional, and you see these interviews, and everybody is just really got a lot out of the experience, like working with him. And I don't know, it just doesn't really like pass the smell test, like to me, that okay, Refn sucks, the movie sucks, this is all a waste of time. It's like, I was already like really skeptical that the movie was going to be bad, and I was really pumped on it. And I think I might have brought this up on other episodes, but I finally watched Too Old to Die Young, which is the series he did with Miles Teller on Amazon. It's like, I want to say it's like 15 hours long or something, or like 13 hours long. I watched that. That was the first the first thing I've seen of Refn that I had never seen in like forever, right? Like 5 or like 8 years. It's been so long since I've watched him. It's like his opus. It's completely. I was telling everybody to watch it because I was watching it and it scratches like every single type of itch you could want. Like there's like the incredible Refn set pieces that are in it, like incredible sequences, and then he just gets amazing performances. Like Miles Teller is very similar to Gosling from like the collaborations they've done, where he like hardly talks and hardly like reacts to anything, and then he's like a crooked cop. So he's like an assassin, crooked cop that's just like killing people like a sociopath. And the cast is incredible, but when the show kind of unfolds, and this is why I was basically Too Old to Die Young. I would almost say it's like you get all the stuff you get with Drive. Like you get incredible kind of like action sequences, like thriller. There's a car chase sequence in episode 5 that's like one of the greatest scenes I've ever like witnessed in my life. Like it was just completely transcendent. Like this chase sequence where you're like, how did no one mention this when it came out? Like only Sean Fahey said that this show was incredible. You know what I mean? But then the other thing about it is that because it's so long, it's really slow. It's like, and Refn gets a lot of shit for that people talk slow in his films and stuff like that. But he like really lengthens it in Too Old to Die Young. Like and then it's also basically like a crime thriller where there's like, like a Mexican cartel like characters as well. The second episode cuts to Mexico and it's like it's like the Mexican cartels like all in Spanish. And you're just like, wow, I can't believe this show is like this. Like it literally has a little bit of everything. And I don't even want to spoil it, but it really ends up it really taught me why Refn is a great filmmaker, because I've always been on like the fence with him. I've always thought of him like, one of the better directors in the world, but I always thought there was almost like a ceiling to him as far as, I'm not really big on Tarantino. I'm not really big with like revenge stuff and like violence, but really seeing it with Too Old to Die Young. And again, this is a spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. Most of his films, all the characters die. Like that happens in a lot of his films. So there's a lot of that in Too Old to Die Young, where it's like kind of shocking how many of the characters you see like die and like degenerate. But it ends up being like almost like a portrait of America too. Like there's some like really fucking hilarious, like Miles Teller becomes a detective, and in the police station the cops are like total goofballs, and they're like always fucking with them. They're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's just like,
What?
I swear to God, they're like joking with him, like they're like, "Oh yeah, you want to suck my dick?" And then Miles Teller's like, "No."
It reminds me of those dudes on the sidewalk in Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, it's insanely
kind of like
funny.
This detached, hyper, what's the word, like homo, kind of aggressive. Yeah. But
yeah,
you're
it just
saying
comes out of nowhere.
those are his like fellow police officers?
Yeah, they're just like dumbasses. They're like Wolf of Wall Street, like, and then at one point the lieutenant is going on an insane like rant like to all the police officers, and they're all like cheering, and Miles Teller is just sitting there stone faced. And at one point the police officer starts screaming like, "Fascism! Fascism!"
What?
It's like so like random, but I was just dying laughing. I was like, so it's literally simultaneously insanely violent, insanely slow and methodical. There are sequences you've never witnessed in your entire life, and it's also like unbelievably funny. And then John Hawkes is incredible in it. Jenna Malone is in it, who I just rewatched The Neon Demon, which I'll get into as well. But one of the so you start watching the show, you're like, okay, this is like about a corrupt police officer, right? Miles Teller. And I think it's in episode 1, you figure out that he's dating like a 16-year-old who's in high school.
When does this take place?
Well, this is set in the modern day.
Okay.
So in the show, it's like there's no way around it. Miles Teller is like literally like a sociopathic like murderer, and he's also fucking like an underage chick. And I'm laughing because it's portrayed in such a way where you're just like, oh my god, like it's not like it's not like super explicit in terms of like what you see, but just the frankness of them, like the way it's introduced, you're like, no. you're like watching it and you're just like, I can't believe Miles Teller is dating like a 16-year-old in this show, and that's just a plot point. Because again, like I'm saying with Refn, he almost wants to destroy his characters. Like that's something that I really picked up on with this show, where I'm like, oh wait, this is almost like a literary device. But I started laughing because the girl who he's dating, who's like 16 or 17 or something, is her father is played by William Baldwin, fucking Billy Baldwin, and
Okay.
he's like out of his mind. He's like a drug addict, like TV producer. And Miles Teller comes over and he's just like, yeah, so I want to do a series on your life. And Miles Teller's like, that's not really my thing, And he's like, you're gonna sell me the rights to your life because you're dating my daughter and she's underage, fucking asshole. Like it's like this crazy,
Oh,
and so that's a lot of what happens in the show. And like his partner gets killed right away, Miles Teller's partner, and his partner had these dealings with these mob bosses. So Miles Teller kind of gets, you know, more or less blackmailed by the mob to like start doing hits for them. And then because he's dating this dude's underage daughter, he has to like sell the rights to his life so that he could do like a show. And then there's this sequence
what?
where Billy Baldwin is talking to him, and he's like he's in Miles Teller's girlfriend's like room, and there's all these like plush like there's all these like stuffed animal like lions and tigers and stuff, and Billy Baldwin's holding one. He's like, "Arr," which comes
Yeah.
into her private hell, but he's like
Sure.
literally like growling at Miles Teller. And I swear to God, I'm watching all this play out, and all the shit I just said is all like within like episode 1 or episode like 3. So it's introduced immediately, but literally the show is like immediately like crazy funny, and then as it progresses, you just get more and more like sequences where you're like, wow. Like honestly, episode 5, that's like something that I bet Tarantino was like jealous of,
Mm.
because it was so spectacular. But anyway, we'll get into it on another time. I'm sure you might even. I really want just everyone to watch it because I'm shocked how great the show was. No, yeah, we can get into Her Private Hell because where did you see it by yourself or?
I did. I had to go up to near Cleveland. Yeah, I
Oh
saw
yeah,
it with three other people. It was great.
oh nice. Your friends like it or?
I haven't talked to anyone of my friends who's seen it.
Oh
Really,
okay.
just besides you, honestly.
Okay, I thought my fault. You meant like there were only 3 other people in the audience.
Yeah, all dudes.
Yeah, no, because I went again. I saw it again a couple nights ago, and it was the energy was like definitely different. It wasn't like super empty, but it was like on the empty side.
Yeah.
But the screen was enormous. But I actually saw it in incredible conditions. The first time I saw it a packed. I mean, it was at an AMC, so it wasn't even that in like a huge theater, but it was, maybe it was like a room that fits like 30 or 40 people, like
Okay.
packed, right? And I saw it with Refn did a Q&A afterwards.
Yeah, I've seen like clips of that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And he's not necessarily one of the best like interviews. I remember getting really
He's not
annoyed
really a
with him
showman, yeah.
back in the day. I like don't know if you get too much. But like I said, all the he's just like a figure that I almost taken for granted, because he has a certain kind of vibe and he has a certain kind of fan base that it's almost like Lynch fans, right? Or like David
Mm,
Lynch inspires so many bad versions of him. And it's the same thing
yes.
with like his fans, where there's a lot of like Lynch fans that are kind of goofy and they give off this energy. Refn is like that, but then I've gotten to this point with him where I'm like, I just think he's doing, and I rewatched the Neon Demon and I literally just loved it more than ever before. I mean, it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, if the fans are annoying, I mean, it's like that's not really like what the filmmaker like is. Um,
Yeah.
because I mean, just the imagery, and that's really why he's to me a great director that has aged incredibly well. Is he's so committed to making long lasting images. And
Mm,
Her Private Hell, there are scenes in the movie that are genuinely
jaw
some of the
dropping.
craziest shit, yeah, I've ever seen. I mean, God forbid in an AMC, but the movie just
Sure.
screams cult classic. I could care less that people are hating on it. It
Yeah.
screams cult classic. I mean, it screams like people are going to be screening this movie. And oh yeah, by the way, that was the other thing I forgot. Kavinsky just died. The guy, the pop like sing, or I don't even know if he's pop, but the dude who did the Night Call song that was used in Drive.
Oh. Oh, he wasn't that old then. If that's who I'm
Yeah, he was really
thinking of.
young.
Yeah, that's dang, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of eerie timing. So Her Private Hell, how would we explain the plot of this movie? Because seeing it a second time, I definitely felt like I understood the plot better. But the first time I was
Sure.
watching it, it is very bizarre and it is a very abstract movie. And I think genuinely he is going in a more abstract direction. Like I actually just finished watching Copenhagen Cowboy on Netflix, and it's about 5 hours long. It's 6 episodes, and it also
Mm,
was fairly abstract. Like it ends up starting really strange and ending really strange. Like he almost does, because doesn't it say R.I.P. David Lynch at the end of Her Private Hell
don't know about that.
or something like that? Or maybe he gave like a shout out, but I'm pretty sure that it might be in the credits. He might have said like R.I.P. David Lynch, or at least he had like brought it up, because it really does feel like Refn has made this decision to just go as far away from like realism as possible.
Yeah, you texted me that, and before I saw the film, and I was like, "That's interesting." And then within the first shot of the movie, it's like a hotel that doesn't even exist anywhere.
Yeah, that was another question I had, is like, where is the movie set? Because at certain times it's almost like an idea that the movie's set in like Tokyo, and because the movie opens and it's like this kind of magical like movie type of soundtrack immediately, that's almost like 50s or something, or maybe not even
Yeah,
50s, but like almost like a storybook, like kind of like fantasy world. And you see like almost like I don't know if like the buildings are CGI, but like everything about the movie is like
sure.
super artificial, like you said. And there's like this mist that's hanging over everything,
Mm.
and Sophie Thatcher like walks out of the mist, and she has these, this crazy like, makeup on, and she walks into this hotel, and I'm thinking to myself, without even knowing anything about the plot, is she just like a rich woman? Like what is this? I kind of had a feeling she might be lesbian. Like maybe that's just me, like maybe I heard like rumors about what the film was.
Sure.
But immediately she's dealing with this blonde chick who's like gorgeous, but who's just kind of like, you're just kind of like, who is this girl, right? And like, what is this relationship? And like the way they're interacting, the first time I saw the movie, I was like, is Sophie Thatcher like a rich woman who's like hiring a female prostitute? Like, I don't even like, that's literally what I was
Okay.
thinking at first. But then on the second viewing, I'm like, oh, wait, I think this blonde-haired girl got hired to be on the movie that Sophie Thatcher is like working on for her like
Yeah.
dad. So she walks into the hotel lobby and you don't really know what the context is and you're trying to pick up what they're saying, and they get into the elevator and the camera just like zooms in on the blonde chick's like belly button because her stomach is like exposed, and it's like again it's very much like Sophie Thatcher is like looking at her with like lust kind of like feeling before you know anything about the plot or anything, right?
Sure.
And she brings her up to this crazy like penthouse with all these different rooms in it, and this Asian lady who you figure out is like her stepmom, which is really bizarre, uh tells the blonde haired
But she's
girl,
also not even
yeah,
that much older than she is, Sophie Thatcher's
yeah, they
character.
like are similarly like youngish but probably like in their 30s, and she goes up to the blonde haired chick and she's like, repeat after me, you are made of stardust.
One
And it's like,
collective
what is this?
consciousness is another
Yeah, it's
line
what
that
is she like? Why is she saying this? Like, what is this supposed to mean?
yeah, it was weird how I heard about Refn's near death experience before the film. And then those
Uh,
lines seemed eerily just I was not able to separate them from that context. It felt very introspective for the
mhm.
screenwriting of it. I just
Well,
it was kind of hard to get that out of my head. Not that I was supposed to, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting point that the mortality angle is definitely there. It almost does. It instantly reminded me of the Neon Demon because there's that great line in the Neon Demon where they're like, "Beauty isn't everything; it's the only thing." There's all
Yes.
those kinds of lines in the Neon Demon, like, "What's it like when everyone's looking at you and you're the sun?" And then she's like, "It's everything." Like there's just like this intensity to the way people like say things. Uh, but he gets such great performances and everyone seems so earnest. So then it kind of cuts to Sophie Thatcher and them all doing like almost like I figured out again the first viewing I genuinely didn't really understand what I was even watching, but then I started figuring it out that the when she gets pricked and they're like Sophie Thatcher is standing there getting a dress put on her like that crazy like whatever like seat like dress with like mirrors on it and stuff, that it
Yes.
must be like a costume fitting for the film is that they're making is what I believe I interpreted. And so the plot ends up being something along the lines of her dad, who's also kind of a sick, like kind of a, sex obsessed, like creepy guy who like, basically marries a woman that was like her friend. Basically what you figure out is that her dad married her best friend in almost like in a way like to make them closer or something like really bizarre. And he's sitting all these girls down talking to him, he's talking to them all early on, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this movie about? Are these all like hookers that he's like hired? Like who are all these women? And the blonde haired chick is like just eating it up. She's just like, oh, daddy is so cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, what is this movie? But it really keeps you in the dark what exactly, because so much of it feels so artificial and so like intentionally kind of fake. And then you kind of
Yes.
figure out that the father is basically like either a director or a movie producer, and he's trying to make a movie which is basically adapted off of like a comic book. You start seeing images of the comic book later, so that his daughter and his wife, who's her stepmom, can become friends again or something.
Yeah.
That seems to be the plot. And then he's early on, he's sitting all the girls down and he's telling this story about the leather man or whatever, which becomes this very abstract like killer that's like haunting the film. And again, it's so bizarre even talking through all this because none of this is like in reality. It's like in this different kind of space of like almost all of the film almost feels like myth or something. But he tells them
Yeah.
that the leather man is going to come kill you or whatever. And
It's like it's
Oh
in
my god.
sexy hyperspace in the different dimension that has
Yeah.
no linear structure or normal behavior.
Yeah,
Because I
because
mean,
everyone
his characters have always been, um, I don't know, people, yeah, not like you said artificial, but there's kind of like this really interesting disconnect to them
Mhm.
where they'll deliver lines very slowly and they seem to they seem to sometimes talk to each other without looking at each other,
Mhm.
which I mean is something we do nowadays. I mean, like a lot of people just have conversations on their phones in the same room,
Right.
not even look at each other.
No, that
Yeah,
is true.
the space is like the space of it is really weird. Like it's it's dreamlike is what most people would say, but it feels
Mhm.
something more than a dream. Like if there is another aspect to it or something that I don't quite understand.
Yeah, he keeps talking about it like it's like a fairy tale or something. And she even
So
brings up
yeah.
Hans Christian Andersen early on to the blonde-haired girl, and she's like, "I don't listen to European pop music" or something like that. Which is
I
like
heard
kind of a funny line.
somebody interview Refn and they said fairy tale and he seemed to kind of really grasp that when he kind
Yeah.
of like bring it up like it was intentional to kind of make it like fairy tale like.
Yeah, it does feel like that because then there's this amazing cut, and when I really was just full, because I was already kind of bought in like on the imagery and kind of Refn's kind of masterly touch with how one scene goes to the other, and like the cinematography is just so gorgeous, and like the camera motions when there is like basically there's like a film within a film early in the movie where Sophie
Yeah.
Thatcher and all the other actresses are like in a science fiction film.
Yeah, that was dope.
Wasn't that absolutely insane how
It
like the
was
visuals of that?
yeah, it was cool when she's piloting the spaceship and it's these
She
pink and greens like kind of like kaleidoscope, kind of like if you put that Stargate sequence from 2001 into like into the comic book of the movie.
Yeah. She like goes into like a wormhole, like in a movie within a movie, and all the other women who are on board, all in this like kind of makeup and like with their hair done up and like these, silly kind of like almost like ray gun type weapons that they have. They're all like, I guess they're cryogenically frozen or something. And then she goes in the wormhole,
Yeah.
they all wake up and they all try to kill her when she lands on this crazy like alien planet, like this set that you keep going back to later in the film, which is like these glowing like crystals,
Yeah, yeah.
which is just stunning. I mean, all of that, I was immediately like, okay,
It's really
I
interesting too how he has like a genuinely very impressive if you were to take like genre filmmaking in terms of an
oh
action
yeah,
sequence and it's only like 20 seconds. And I was thinking like damn, this is better than any like an action movie. And
oh yeah.
it gets just ripped away from you.
Well, you remember that incredible sequence from Four Nights of a Dreamer, the Bresson film, where the character goes to see a movie and Bresson parodies
Oh,
Hollywood films?
yeah, it's like some guy getting I, he's like
It's
bleeding
like
or
a
something and
shootout.
yeah, yeah.
And then he's like drops onto the ground. There's like blood everywhere, and then the guy just leaves the theater. That's almost like where I went with it when I'm watching
Oh
this
wow,
science
okay.
fiction, like this science fiction sequence of a film within a film, where Refn is almost like not like I think he's parodying like Hollywood, but it almost does seem like almost like a shot at like yeah like superhero kind of stuff, like comic book stuff, like because he makes it really like kind of like as cute as a button, like just these women just shooting lasers at each other, and it's like such a weird
Boom.
counterpoint. Yeah,
Boom.
the craziest thing with Refn to me is that even though people like have really extreme reactions to his films because his films can be really really violent, and also,
Mhm.
be really uncomfortably sexual. Like there's a lot of talk about like incest too. That's like a prevalent theme throughout his work. Like in Only God Forgives, that's like a really crazy part. And then Too Old to
Mm.
Die Young, there's a lot of that. There's this he almost wants the characters to like his characters in his work have to be so close to each other that it becomes like disturbing. But there's this weird counterpoint where Her Private Hell is essentially a film about women, and the women kind of have this great rapport with each other where they're kind of just like, joking around, and like there's a lightness to it, even though the movie has this like edge of like violence and darkness, and there's this abstract kind of Lynch feeling. There still is
Yeah.
almost like this, like I said, like this cute as a button. I had said this before the movie came out, but it is so fascinating to see a Refn in the era of aura farming and looks maxing and these like
Dude.
terms. Like I feel like kids that are like 18 or 20 years old, or even people that are in high school, this movie might go like viral, like in like a TikTok way, just because of like the look of everybody and like the imagery. And apparently, I think he was asked about that in a Q&A, Sean told me, but I
That's a
really do.
really good question.
I know that's what I would have asked him about is like, you're in this era where people are really like in this, like, people are very cognizant of like their looks in a different kind of way. And, a pretty solid segue. So they're shooting the science fiction sequence, and then the blonde chick is going to kill Sophie Thatcher in this scene, and she goes, "Wait, let me tell you guys something scary." And I think we already skipped over something, but at one point, Sophie Thatcher and the blonde see someone get murdered, like in a hotel across. You see like a woman get murdered and thrown out a window, and there's
Yeah,
just
she
like
gets
this
her head
weird,
bashed through the hotel and then thrown
yeah,
like and it's also like not clear how like big it's not clear to me how big this hotel is. Because on the
yeah.
viewing that I was like, oh, that's the biggest building I've ever seen in a movie ever.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like, there's these hotels in other countries where I haven't even seen a building that big, you know? So I'm kind of like,
Well, it was crazy. Even on a second viewing, I forgot that there are like almost like giant like people like sculptures in that city too.
oh yeah, yeah.
There's like a giant like hands in the sky and like a giant head, and because it doesn't go back to that, I almost like forgot about it. But seeing it again, I'm like, holy shit! But it really, so they see someone get killed is the part that I forgot to add in right before the science fiction part. So then they're on the
Mm.
set shooting this movie, and it's like this really kind of brilliant cut where it goes from like a movie within a movie, like kind of like Refn parodying another style of film in a way, or almost I mean, I think he's almost sincerely doing it, but it almost feels like he's like making it's almost like a science fiction like made for like kids kind of vibe. Like it's way more innocent than the movie he's making. And then the blonde takes them all out of it because she's like, I gotta tell us about I was Googling about the Leatherman last night. And she starts describing this like serial killer or whatever it is. It's like an urban legend in the film. And then at one point she's like, or some cultures call it the devil. And she puts like two fingers up over her head to like pretend like she has horns.
Yes.
And then the Asian stepmother is like, "Oh no, not the devil." So there's this interesting vibe with the performances where you're like, "This is so strange. Like, what is this movie exactly?" Because there's not like dramatic tension. Like you're not like led from one scene to another like in a logical way of, oh, we're gonna do a heist or something. It's just kind of building this weird mythology. And the strangest cut of the movie, I think the thing that is one of the most hard to explain connections, and this is to me what makes the film, to me what makes it great, because it's so like loose the way that Refn is kind of, I almost would describe it as Refn like kind of pushed two movies together in
Mm.
one movie. It cuts to Sophie Thatcher. I think she's like tries to go to sleep, like after whatever. I think her dad leaves and gifts her like a golden hatchet for some reason. And you're like, okay, just another detail that it's like kind of bizarre. Like, okay, you're giving the main woman a fucking weapon
Yeah.
for what reason. And at one point early on, too, the dad had described to the girls that the leather man, you have to be fearful of him. He's going to come for your daughters if you're not careful. But the only way to beat him is by cutting off his hands. So that's also one
Yes.
of the early bits of dialogue. But so Sophie Thatcher, after her father leaves the hotel, whatever, it's a fictional city or it's Tokyo, who knows? Because why we start thinking it might be set in Tokyo, outside of the fact that, like, yeah, I think the costume fitters are both Asian as well. So there are
Yes.
a couple of Asian people, but it is a fairly diverse cast where it's not like obvious, like ethnically, that you're
Oh,
actually in
sure.
Japan. But then it cuts to like a straight up like Japanese like action movie sequence with Charles Melton, and it kind of
Yeah.
and here's what's so beautiful about it is I'm pretty sure that is introduced purely as like a dream that she's having or something. Like she's like going to sleep and she starts to dream about Charles Melton, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like really bizarre because it's like not logical at all. And then it just cuts to this like American GI who I mean, I'm not totally sure his like ethnicity, but he kind of does pass as like Asian, generally somewhat Asian, right? Because I think he's like speaking Japanese, right?
Yeah.
And he is like dealing with this mist, and he's like, again, you're basically thrown into a totally different genre movie. Her Private Hell is like with the Sophie Thatcher character and all this is like that's like a horror movie, and then she has like a dream about like a detective action karate movie, and it's Charles Melton like saving like women from like the yakuza, and it just cuts to like,
Yes.
and he goes like, what's the thing? He's like he gives the lighter to the one dude, and he's like compliments of Uncle Sam or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you remember who that like? So he gives the lighter to someone who's also like on the police force, and he's like a GI, but he's like trying to like beat up yakuza, like, and he's also searching for his daughter. Is like the crazy like parallel as well that the
Yeah.
Charles Melton character is like looking for his daughter that the leather man had, killed or abducted or something. And when he says, compliments of Uncle Sam, he gives the guy his lighter. Have you seen that actor before? The guy, the police officer, he gives the lighter to.
Not sure.
He was the lead of Drive My Car,
Really?
the film that won Best Foreign Film a couple
Oh,
of
yeah,
years
yeah, yeah, yeah,
ago.
yeah. Okay.
Incredible Japanese actor, and Refn is Refn is best buddies with Kojima, the video game dude.
Yeah.
So I think he really, really loves like Japan, and like I think he has like a solid kind of base there. But yeah, the Charles Melton sequence is like Charles Melton like fighting like all these different people, killing all these different Yakuza guys. There's a again, I don't really like action sequences,
Sure.
but the lighting is so incredible in every scene. And you get into this part where he fights like a giant fat dude. And especially on a second viewing, I really was like, this is just so masterly the way that this kind of plays out, like in this way that isn't really like realistic, but it's like the cutting of it, the editing of it. He like comes in, he stabs a dude's hand, and the guy's like, oh, like he like can't move because it's almost like self-aware that it is like a genre film inside of the film.
Yeah.
Uh, and then he starts this giant fat dude like takes his shirt off and like turns on the jukebox, and then they start to fight, right?
Yup.
And the whole thing is like just very well done, but you're also just kind of like, what is this bit of the movie? And so eventually, the Charles Melton character gets like chewed out, blah blah blah. It's like it's kind of like, what is this part of the movie? I almost like seeing it the first time and then seeing it the second time. I was less invested in the Charles Melton stuff, but the fact it was so well made, and then the fact it's like, yeah, what movies have like another movie going on? I mean, this movie has I mean, now that we're thinking about it,
Yeah.
it has a horror movie going on, and then it has the science fiction film, angle, and then that science fiction set, and then it has this Charles Melton, like, you know, American GI looking for his lost daughter, getting into karate fights with people. It's just like what kind of like I see that, and just as we're talking about it, it just makes me like love the film, you know? The fact that the film is like so there's something extremely meta about it, you know? There's
Mm.
something very self-aware about it, even though I don't know, it's extremely like artificial, and all the imagery is incredible, and the music is like incredible, and it just feels like you're in a different world, but it does seem to be like making some kind of comment on the forms of cinema itself, you know?
Yeah, it like it almost brings, I don't want to say parody into it, but
Mhm.
it brings kind of like this meta commentary, and then it somehow toes the line of it still being its own film without trying to make it about that, which I
Yeah.
think is hard to like. I think people watch that, maybe why a bunch of people, I mean, that's not like the only reason people probably generally dislike this movie, but people just kind of go like, I think when movies try to like do that and they think in their mind that it doesn't pull it off, they dislike it. But I don't think that's what it's
Mhm.
trying to do.
What is it? What do people think it's trying to do?
Just kind of like commentary, critique, like something, critique like this narrative structure, this, because I know
Uh,
narrative, like, I mean, this movie's very anti-narrative in a way that
oh yeah.
can get kind of like algorithmic.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's really no logical reason for one scene to go into the next. It's kind of just like portrayed to you. I was also going to say the other piece of information we get from the Charles Melton bit is that you see him reading the comic book of the movie that Sophie Thatcher and them
Oh
are working
yeah.
on. And later, he has another like action sequence, which I actually went to the bathroom during, and I was kind of mad at myself because I just didn't want to miss like the best scene of the movie. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom
Mm,
before like my favorite scene of the movie happens. And I literally went to the bathroom, came back, and I was like, damn, that's the second action sequence with Charles Melton was even faster than I realized. It's like probably like 90 seconds or like 2 minutes long or something.
mm.
So it's like way more condensed than I realized. But yeah, it's like those parts, I really was like on a second viewing, I'm like, what is this? And they're also really violent, the way he's like killing people. Um,
He
but
rips the dude's eye
it
out. Yeah.
yeah, he gouges the fat guy's eye out, and then he sees him again later, and then he gouges his other eye out.
Yeah, he has an eye patch. And the next time he's,
Yeah,
I may have missed it, but what did you also think of in the Private K realm? What did you think of him constantly lighting cigarettes? And by
oh yeah, and then the
constantly,
dude.
I mean like a dozen times.
Yeah, that's a good point because there's a lot of that in this film too, of people women, when Sophie Thatcher like takes her makeup off early on, she's like, I'm just taking my face off. Like there's something about it with Refn where, like we were saying with aura farming or like whatever mogging or something, because Charles Charles Melton just has like a face that's like literally like almost designed to be like to like mog people to death. Like he has like a vibe to him that seems extremely contemporary as far as being like a. Have you ever heard of this show Riverdale that people have been talking about?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't even know what that is, but people apparently Charles Melton is like a major star, and I never even heard of him until I saw this movie. But no, I love that. I love that he's smoking those cigarettes. But that is a great point though, because I do agree. It's like every shot that he walks into, he just lights another cigarette, and it is
Yeah,
almost like for like aura, for like
he
the
just will
smoke,
enter
for
a
like the
room and
mist.
strike another cigarette, and then go into another room, strike another cigarette, and then other people in the scene will be either in the background or it'll cut to them also lighting up a cigarette. So it's not just him doing it. It's like other people. It's like everybody has a cigarette on them in this dream. It's like the actions of the like somebody performing a specific action.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I'll definitely look for that next time I see it. Like how many times? Because I definitely did notice it. Of like, okay, this is like a big aspect of this character, like him, lighting cigarettes. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think
you
next
might
time
be
you
right.
see
It's
it, you'll
even
be
more than I
like, "Oh
realized.
my gosh."
Yeah, because I remember at least a couple of times, but now that you mention it, I think you're right
Yeah,
that it's
it's
like,
like at least 7 times, I think. At least. I really don't think that's an exaggeration either. I think that's probably about right.
Hmm. So I guess the Charles Melton, because the other thing that I was confused about, not in like a bad way, but and this is at least how it was pitched. Like this was what was written about online was that Charles Melton plays the killer. That's like that's almost like the vibe before I saw it, and that was like
Oh,
kind of in the air that Charles Melton plays a serial killer. Yeah, maybe that was just represented, but then the film kind of toys with that. Like as the film plays out, and then he ends up getting like a leather jacket, and
right.
it almost does toy with the idea, is he going to be the killer or what's happening? And he almost is more like he's like someone that's trying to get this, the leather man, this thing that like doesn't exist, but you're like, how is that going to happen? So I
Mm.
don't even know how to bridge the gap into these next couple of scenes, but I'll try. uh Basically between the two Charles Melton action sequences of him like doing karate and like fighting a bunch of people, Sophie Thatcher and her stepmom and then the blonde are all hanging out, and they start speaking wolf to each other. They start like barking at each other. And the blonde is like, "Oh, that's so cool. You speak wolf." And it's like just really funny and kind of like light. And then they're like, "Let's go hang out with Nico."
Nico.
Yeah, isn't that hilarious? The dude, they're the degenerate like guy that they go hang out with is named Nico. But that's basically that like scene right between those is that, oh, the girls are going to go out on the town. That's like the most plot we get in this movie is that the
Yeah.
girls who are shooting a movie are going to go out and party. And so they kind of agree to do it, but then there's like some kind of sense in the air that Sophie Thatcher, I don't think she's a little bit like hesitant for some reason. Like I think she's just like tired. I don't even know. So there's that little bit of information. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything of that scene where they like are barking at each other. It's just like a really funny scene. But what's really fucking when the movie to me, when I was like, okay, this is like one of the best films of his career type vibe, was once we introduced this Nico character, and the stepmom is more or less just openly like, yeah, I have a flirty thing with this guy, like who cares type vibe. And
Uh-huh.
Sophie Thatcher is very much like, I'm gonna tell my dad, like this is fucked up. And you're like, what the hell? Like this is what is happening with this movie? There's that scene where I guess they're at his apartment, and Sophie Thatcher is sitting there, and the light is just transforming over her face as she looks at her stepmom flirt with this dude. Do you
Yeah.
remember what I'm talking about? Which is on one of the posters.
Yes.
That moment, and then there's like this like incredible kind of guitar in the background was so like transfixing. And a lot of the movie is hypnotic, but the way that she's just like looking over at them, and there's a lot of that in her performance too, where Refn will cut to Sophie Thatcher observing, and he'll like make her not react, but you see like muscles in her face like twitch.
Yes.
It's absolutely incredible. It's everything that the Odyssey could not do.
I was wondering if that would come back
It's
into
the
this.
exact opposite of dealing with actors, which is why this movie is incredible and the Odyssey is fucking horrible. Is great acting is not about showing off. It's not about being loud and, even though, yeah, there's like some screaming and stuff that ends up happening in Her Private Hell. To me, Sophie Thatcher's performance is pretty amazing because you see this like cauldron of something going on inside her that she is resisting showing. And
Yeah.
Refn, this is what a lot of the cast said. A lot of the cast said whenever he would give them direction, he would say like over and over, he had a line where he said, "Nothing is everything." is what he would
Yes.
constantly tell them. And that is in Charles Melton's performance too, just like Ryan Gosling or Miles Teller in other films. uh Charles Melton is like stone faced, like will not react, you know? And
Mm.
it is like, yeah, you know, going back, I even brought up Bresson a minute ago, but yeah, it's a old school kind of Bressonian idea to like, you know, you want to limit the performers, like you want to take them down, you want to keep making them react less and less and less because the camera is going to pick it up. And in that sequence when she's looking at her stepmom flirting with this Nico character and the lights are just like transforming over her face, it really is just magic to me where I'm like, wow, this shot. And that was just almost like a little moment that's like indescribable, but it's on the poster. But the poster doesn't even like, or there is a version of the poster of her looking at the mom and Nico, but it just doesn't do justice to it because the light keeps transforming, and you're like, oh my god, this is so crazy. So they go out on the balcony and the stepmom is basically like, yeah, me and your father are basically in an open relationship. And then at the same time she's like, yeah, you know, the first time we met, I took you home to my place and you threw up all over my bed. You're like, wait, what? So then the movie starts hinting that Sophie Thatcher and her now stepmom potentially had like, they weren't just best friends, but they might have had
Romantic
like a weird,
relationship, yeah.
yeah, you're starting to get that vibe because Sophie Thatcher, it's not so much that she's mad that her stepmom is potentially cheating on her dad. It seems like she's just jealous. Like she just actually
Yes.
has a sexual fixation with her stepmom. And it happened even before the dad like married her. And so they're out on the balcony, they look inside, and the blonde is like trying her best to like entertain this Nico dude. And then Sophie Thatcher is like, how could someone so beautiful be so unfuckable?
It's my favorite line in the movie.
Which was hilarious because it's another like incredibly self-aware moment where these women are like, that's the thing about the film that's so like unique to me, is that the whole thing is so artificial, but then you get these lines that are just cut through everything, you know? And there's something that's like super real about that. Like this blonde-haired chick that's like over the top the whole movie, and then to have one of the characters just be openly annoyed with her. And you kind of can tell that their personalities like clash, like
Yeah.
underneath the surface, but for her to like say it is kind of like a third wall break. But no, I'm building this up that, you know, they're at this like apartment. And again, it's still funny even talking about this because the movie has so much more of a grandeur when you're in it and when you're seeing it on the big screen, that the plot just seems like so small, like talking about it, because it really
Yeah.
there's so few like scenes. Like now that we're talking about it, there's only like,
No, I mean if you were to listen to this episode, it would be like we're skipping over things, but we're really not at
yeah,
all.
I think we've already talked about most of the movie
We've talked
somehow.
about like 90% of the movie.
Because so much of it is just in the gestures and in the music and like this, the, you know, the set pieces and like the cinematography. But now we're going to get more into like the spoilers of the film, just because we're getting to basically, to me, a sequence unlike anything I've ever seen,
Yeah, the
which is almost
craziest
like,
thing I've seen in a movie in a very long time.
yeah. So they literally are at this apartment. There's like a weird vibe in the air. And I think there's another line that Sean loved where the stepmom is like, I've been mothering you ever since we met,
Hmm.
is another
I
line that
thought
she
I
says.
thought he might like the Nika one when he's like, I'm into freaky shit.
Oh yeah, that part was actually funny too. Uh but no, yeah, and then that was another bit too where he, yeah, at this apartment, Nico says that Sophie Thatcher's dad like bought a video of someone like with a fetus or something insane.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And
Oh my
he's like, I
gosh,
was
how
at
did I
this
forget about that?
he's like, I was at this party and your dad, like, I forget the details of it, but it's like the dad bought something to do with a fetus, and the stepmom's like, ew, that's gross. It's like, yeah, you're
Yes.
married to this guy, and then you're with the sleaziest dude ever right now, this like Nico character. And so they're out on this balcony, and the blonde comes out, and he's like, Do you want to go to uniform night? Is that what it's called?
The uniform
It's either uniform night or like suits something.
It's definitely uniform.
Yeah.
I know what you're
And
talking.
they're
It's like
like,
a very meta name
yeah,
for
and they're like,
like a
wait,
club
what?
or something.
Wait, what happens there? And you don't really even get an explanation. It just cuts to them in the elevator on the way there, and there's just definitely a vibe of like the stepmom like probably wants to fuck Nico, and she tells Sophie Thatcher that she had like hooked up with him before, and they go to this like club, and it's just like the rest of the movie where it really is only a couple of the characters, but then you almost like get tricked into thinking you're in this club and it has this vibe that there's other people there, but it really is just the characters, and it's just
Yeah.
immediately like really loud music, and then all three of the women just it cuts between all three of them like dancing, like really like pumped, like at a club. And I love that too. Like it was
Very
so quick.
Polish theater, just with the strobe lights, just like moving their whole body. It's
Yeah.
not even. It's not even. It's not sexy. It's not. It's very intimidating to watch. You're like, oh my goodness. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, so they all start dancing their asses off at this club, and you're thinking to yourself like, wow, I didn't expect this to happen. And then as the as it's playing out, it's just these strobe lights that are like flickering off and on and off and on, and it makes you like almost like hallucinate, where the
Yeah.
light catches the character and you think that there's someone else, or you think that they've moved further in the space, and then you realize that they're
Yeah.
just standing still. It has this really amazing hallucinatory effect to it. And Sophie Thatcher tries to make out with her stepmom, and her stepmom seems like she's like into it for a split second, and then she's like, I'm not in the mood. And she like walks off. And then eventually she like it seems like she leaves somewhere, right? She probably just goes home. And it has this energy to it of, oh, this is like what it's like going to a club. And as it's cutting through this club, you see Charles Melton like kind of I think he has some blood on him, or maybe he's just sweaty, but he has this like glistening kind of feeling to him, and he's wearing the crazy leather jacket, so you're like, oh, this must be the serial killer, he's going to kill someone. And he's just in the club, but you're also like, wait, so is this in Tokyo? Like, where am I exactly?
Yeah.
Is he
Yes.
well, how is he here? Is he like a real like I didn't even know there's a real person, but I guess he's at this club. So it'll cut back and forth between him and all these characters interacting. She tries to make out with her stepmom. The stepmom leaves. And then Sophie Thatcher is just like, fuck it. I'll have sex with Nico. Almost like out of spite. Like, I'll just do it because I like want to do something. Maybe she's just like drunk or like on drugs or something. Like she just
Right.
wants to like do something. It seems like. So who knows if it's like that's her initial motivation to like make the stepmom mad. So then she goes into this crazy. It's like this weird, like almost like a little cabin inside the club. It's like a
Yeah.
cabin with like a glass window, and she starts making out with Nico, and she's about to hook up with Nico. And as this is happening, it's cutting all the other characters out, like it's cutting to the blonde character dancing. By the way, the blonde has this absolutely stunning dress on from the Nico apartment sequence to the club sequence that's just like sparkles in such an incredible way when like the light hits it. So her
Yeah.
in particular dancing has this incredible like hypnotic, like larger than life kind of feeling, but there's a counterpoint vibe to it because the image of her is so like loud and so huge, but then she has just a very like, you know, outgoing like personality that like we said earlier about Sophie Thatcher calling the blonde haired girl like unfuckable, like it's like this kind of. And sure enough, it seems like she, when you're going through the sequence, and I've seen it now twice, it seems like she starts to go up to Charles Melton. It seems like she sees him and she's just like an idiot and she's about to walk up to a serial killer.
Mm.
And then somehow, some way in the sequence, you kind of figure out that actually, no, she's actually just walking towards this cabin. So you see Sophie Thatcher and the Nico guys start to hook up in this cabin, like through this like glass, and the blonde chick walks up to the glass, and she's standing there, and the movie just keeps
Yeah,
building and
is
building.
she watching them? Like,
Yeah, it seems like she's about to, and as she's walking up, you realize that Charles Melton is like also behind glass of some sort. And it's like this
hmm.
completely like abstract, almost like experimental film like twist where you're like, wait, I thought Charles Melton was there. But then he starts punching the glass. There's glass
Yeah.
separating him from what you're looking at. And this is getting really complicated if you haven't seen the film. But if you have seen it, you're right there with me of this is like one of the greatest moments probably we're ever going to see, especially 21st century film to me is one of the greatest moments so far in the 21st century of cinema where Sophie Thatcher fucks this Nico guy, and as that happens, the leather man appears, which I think you see his like glowing eyes, right? And he's also wearing like leather, and he has this crazy look to him. And he walks up behind the blonde and he like grabs her right in the middle of her chest and rips her into pieces. And as he does that, she says daddy at the height of the Sophie Thatcher Nico sex scene and Charles Melton punching glass because
Yes.
he's trying to stop the leather man from getting another a victim, and she's like in ecstasy after getting killed. So she gets brutally murdered, blood goes everywhere all over the glass that Sophie Thatcher's getting fucked on, and the score totally like hits its apex, like the climactic like sound that it's in the trailer, like because the music is very much like hinting at this kind of grand operatic kind of
Yes.
score, but then the movie hits its absolute pinnacle climactic like storybook counterpoint where Sophie Thatcher's getting fucked, the blonde gets murdered, her blood goes everywhere, Charles Melton's punching the glass, and then the music swells. And I'm sitting there in the theater being like, the first time I saw that, I could not believe my jaw was on the ground. I was literally like, the idea that someone would say that this movie is bad is
Mm.
so insane. Like when you do something like that, when you do a scene that, I mean, that's literally going to be studied forever. Like that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a movie. Like the editing of it, the music, the performances. Again, this is not about realism. Funny enough, once the blonde gets killed, it's like not even ever mentioned again. Like it's no one even like goes, "Oh, where'd she go?" They just
Yeah,
don't even
yeah,
care.
yeah. That's a good point.
Which is again, I think one of the reasons, and I'll get to that why I think I can defend that decision. She gets killed in a way that she almost like wanted to be killed by the Leatherman, and it's like so abstract. The other part that's like really crazy that I didn't even see the first time I saw it was after Sophie Thatcher got fucked, like after the scene is like over, she takes off her underwear and she like cleans herself. Did you notice that?
Uh, I know what happens next. I don't quite recall that.
Dude, I just saw it again. I swear to God, she took like her like leg looks like wet. And she like rubs the underwear on her leg.
Huh.
So it's even more like it's even more grotesque than I realized the first viewing. Because obviously what comes next is even more fucked up. But it literally shows her like put it like making the underwear like, you know, not to get super graphic on this podcast, but it's like it's a lot, right? So again,
Right.
you can see this. This doesn't have to be your cup of tea. I get it. Like a movie that's gonna be so violent and so kind of gross, and I get it. It's not everyone's thing. It's divisive, but I think I just appreciate Refn wanting to get big reactions, because then the next scene, Sophie Thatcher and the stepmom are back in the hotel, and Sophie Thatcher starts shoving her used underwear into her stepmom's mouth when she's asleep and saying like, "Oh, can you taste Nico, can you taste it? And
Yeah.
it's really fucked up. And, Sophie Thatcher kind of comes unspooled, and I was going to say this too about the production. Refn shoots in chronological order.
Yes.
So that really makes a lot of sense when you see this film, because Sophie Thatcher starts very reserved and like her face is like twitching in scenes. And then by the time she's like confronting her stepmom, like in this like lover's jealousy way, she's like full on like Isabella Johnny, like flipping out. And she kind of gets into this cat fight with her stepmom. And it's kind of like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm like, fuck you, and she's like, oh, I'm going to tell your dad about this. And then she's like, whatever, kind of just like mad, but also kind of like shoving her. And then the stepmom's like, I don't want you, is like the big
Yeah.
line where you're like, Jesus Christ. And so the movie gets really ugly in that way, where you're like, wow, so this movie that was like a horror movie mixed with a science fiction film, mixed with a karate noir film, has now gone into the realm of like an ugly breakup or something. And this scene,
Yeah.
it's a little bit over the top, but to me it really like worked. Like they're back and forth, like their crash out. I just think he gets amazing performances out of his actors, where by the time you finally get these explosive sequences where people are like shouting at each other, I feel like he earns it. You know what I mean? Like, I
Sure.
thought Sophie Thatcher's performance was incredible. And so she's kind of going back and forth with the stepmom. And then we're going to jump again through a leap of faith, of just no realism whatsoever, where she threatens the stepmom with the axe. And you think that she's going to kill the stepmom with the axe, and she doesn't. And she goes to her room, and then the Leatherman appears and just brutally kills her stepmom. And in that sequence, and I'm cutting around, she thinks about saving her stepmom, but she doesn't. She just lets her get murdered. And like the mist from outside creeps into the apartment, so now there's mist everywhere. She runs up the stairs and she goes to the science fiction set that they were shooting in earlier.
Yes.
And that's where like the final showdown happens between Charles Melton. And also, by the way, when Charles Melton was punching on the glass earlier, I think that ends up cutting to him on the science fiction set. Like,
Okay.
and here's where I'm going with this in terms of like my second viewing, trying to explain the lack of realism. And the movie's called Her Private Hell. And then, like you said, the one guy's name was literally Private K, also, which is
I
another
was
little
thinking about
funny,
that. Yeah.
yeah, like a play on words or something. So they're all on this science fiction set for this confrontation with, the Leatherman. And I think he fights Charles Melton, and he's like Charles Melton's like getting his ass kicked. And then Sophie Thatcher, and this is all with like almost no dialogue.
I don't
Sophie
think there's
Thatcher,
any at
like,
all.
yeah, she cuts off the hands, and then the hands just shoot like purple, and the eyes shoot purple. And in that sequence, it eventually the Leatherman is defeated, and then it kind of cuts to a little girl wearing the same outfit of the science fiction like comic book, and you figure out that's Charles Melton's daughter, and he's gone to hell to save his daughter. Where I get with it, as I'm cutting between all this stuff, I start to think that the reason the movie has like this abstract quality to it, and the reason that there is like these like little meta like situations, is
Mm-hmm.
that every aspect of the movie is her like dad's movie. So
Huh.
the science fiction film, you think, oh, that's the film they're shooting for the dad. But the second time I saw the movie, I really started to think that the entire film is the dad's film. And the reason I think that is because she's able to get to the science fiction set from her hotel. Like, she just goes up the stairs and it's there. And
Yeah.
it makes me think that, and I think there was another line I'm like forgetting, where, the fact that this Charles Melton dude is just like on the set, and then it's like on this like, oh yeah, the other bit is that he sees the costume designer ladies when they're doing like the costume fitting, and Sophie Thatcher gets pricked in the very beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Charles Melton sees those two ladies at another situation, and I start to think, okay, so maybe that's like the connective tissue too, that he's like on this movie or something. That they're like the costume people, and he's like one of the plots of the film. So there's like this quality
Huh.
to Her Private Hell that I start to think that like the most abstract and then the most unrealistic things about the movie are symbolizing the dad making a mess of a movie, or like, the term Her Private Hell. And then there's that line earlier on, like, making a movie is going to war. Making movies like going to war, I think the dad says.
Yes.
And the fact that the film deals with all these different genres in one, it seems like all of the film is like this exaggerated attempt to work out, you know, the daughter and the stepmom's relationship. And every single thing about it is like intertwined in that way. And I almost, it is like a cliche. You can see certain films and you go, oh, how much of that was real? How much of that was in the characters' brains and stuff? Going back to the science fiction part where they're fully in a science fiction movie and then it snaps out of it, I
Yes.
almost think that there's another version of this where they could snap out of like some of the gruesome murders too. Like, I honestly, at the end of the day,
Hmm.
I almost think that's my conclusion about the film, that the reason the artifice and the heightened style of it works so well is I think the movie is kind of leading the viewer to interpret that, like, yeah, this is all fake. Like, again, like that doesn't, because there's a lot of plot jumps, right? The fact that is one thing that should signal that the movie is like intentionally about artifice, when the blonde is killed and no one even mentions it. No one discovers her body. It just cuts to the next scene. I think that's because the dad is making this, and the dad is fucked up, and he's like depraved, and she also, the blonde in that scene also says daddy,
Yes.
which seems like, who would shoot that scene? It seems like only the Sophie Thatcher's father making a demented movie would even do that.
Hmm.
So that's like my interpretation on the second viewing, that the entire movie is like low key directed by the Sophie Thatcher's dad.
Huh.
But that's just one viewing of it. I don't know if anyone else has said that they thought the same about it, but yeah, the ending is crazy. I mean, I thought the sex scene part in the club was already such a height that I literally, anything could have happened the rest of the movie, I still would have loved the film. But the fact that this whole sequence closes it out where everything is seemingly resolved. There is something really strangely unique about the way that the image kind of dissolves onto this young girl's face and Charles Melton gets his daughter back, where you're like,
Yes.
what is the emotion I'm supposed to feel right now?
Yeah, the sexuality and then having a young person thrown into I don't even want to say story, just thrown into the frame is it's very jarring at first.
Yeah, like it's like some form of innocence has been like saved from defeating the Leatherman, but yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time, even, I don't know where to go from all I just said. I think we talked about the whole plot, but yeah, I don't know, because I wasn't even expecting going into this episode to have like a strong interpretation of the film, because I
Mm.
really think, you know, what makes Refn great, and honestly, there's a couple of reasons why I really became open minded to Refn actually being a great director, more so than like one of the best directors in the world, but legitimately, like he will live on. He is like he already is like a legend, but just accepting, I think he's better than Tarantino. I think he does similar things that Tarantino does, but I think he just does it way better.
Mm.
But there was like an interview with Albert Serra, one of my OG like favorite directors, where he was saying that he loves non-communication with actors, and you get like really great performances if you don't communicate with the actors. And he
Mm.
said he heard a story about Refn shooting Drive. And he said that Refn was on the set of Drive wearing headphones and not talking to anybody,
Whoa.
which to
Sounds
me,
about yeah.
it put some seeds into my brain that Refn really is like another level of working with actors. Because every movie he gets amazing performances. Like, and he's so good at casting. Like
Yeah.
he said some crazy number that seemed fake. He said like he had like 10,000 women audition for the Sophie Thatcher part,
Yeah, it was a lot.
or more than that. He might have said 50,000. He might have said a number that was like not real. Like it's impossible to even do that. But he said he like met with Sophie Thatcher. He's like, oh yeah, immediately. Like, yep. Didn't even like really have to have her audition. It was just her look. But that really is it with him. You know, he has like a wild innate sense of how to use people in that way. But I was bringing up the non-communication angle because Albert Serra also said something about his own films and cinema as a whole, which I just thought was genius. Where, and we've gotten in this conversation before on the podcast, you know, plot versus, or, you know, we were talking about this with Spielberg as far as like believability, like all these kinds of terms that people use when they analyze film that is just kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous because, and meaning is another one of those, right? Meaning, we got into this with the David Lynch episode. Albert Serra said, when you make a film, you want to make something beautiful. You want to make beautiful images. You're not trying to make something like mean something. As I believe, I'm like paraphrasing, but that's like essentially kind of what he said. And meaning comes off of that. And I feel like Refn is one of the great examples of a director who is so talented at making indescribably compelling, strange images that
Mm.
the meaning follows, but he's so out front and he's so determined to, again, like we're saying this whole time, he basically crashes two or three different genre films into one film just because he wants all these, like, you know, he said like, oh, I want like I want like Charles Melton like with his shirt off, like kicking people's asses. I like how that like looks.
Yeah.
Like he is a very aesthetically driven director, which at times in the past I've almost thought, okay, maybe he's a little bit empty at times, but at the end of the day, I always kind of loved that he was super divisive. Like he would make these films that critics would hate, and he has balls. You know, he's willing to isolate large portions of an audience to get a reaction. He wants to get a reaction, but it's even more than that. It is just about making beautiful images, making beautiful sequences. And it really is a treat. I think all of his films work so well in the theater, but I did see The Neon Demon multiple times when it came out, and it's special. You see these films on the big screen, they just look unlike anything else, you know? And
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I'm it's hard to rank. I definitely think Too Old to Die Young is like his opus, and I think you would 100% agree with that. But to me, Her Private Hell is like one of the best films of his career. I mean, Neon Demon, in fairness, Neon Demon is like a perfect film too. I just rewatched that.
Damn, I mean, I don't think I've seen it since it came out, but I remember really liking it.
Oh, dude, it aged so well. Because there's this whole bit in that where everybody is just like losing their mind over Elle Fanning. and they're like acting like she's like the hottest chick of all time. But then there's like
Yeah.
this really dark side of the movie that she's like, I think she just turned 15 or just turned 16.
In the
Her
movie?
character.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
her character. Yeah, she was, I think she was 18 or something when she shot it. But she in the movie, her character is like 15 or 16. And so then when I was rewatching it, it is really funny when all these models that are like tens are being told they're ugly compared to Elle Fanning, because it's like it
Yeah.
almost is like debatable if that's even true. But then there's this way darker thing that I picked up on this viewing where the film is like the film is like a cutting takedown of Hollywood, because it's
Yeah.
not that she because yeah, that's the thing that's unspeakable about the movie. That's magic is look at Elle. She has this aura, and then the whole movie is people reacting to this kind of fictional aura. It has this kind of literary quality to it, like beauty is like a something that you can almost discuss like out of a great novel, like as like the symbology of it is just so potent with Refn, and there are so many amazing sequences, like we're saying with like strobe lights and stuff, and just hypnotic imagery. But I came away from the Neon Demon seeing it, for the first time in all these years, thinking, oh no, it's not that she has aura, it's that everyone in Hollywood knows that she's underage. And they all are like into her being a little girl. And they're all
Oh God.
pedophiles, basically. Yeah, isn't that
Interesting.
crazy? But no, it really comes across this viewing. It really comes across that because there's something so comical about the Neon Demon, the fact that all these models they think that they're such losers compared to Elle Fanning, and then some of them are like openly being like, "Yeah, they call me the Bionic Woman. I just get so much work done," and it's like. Even that was like ahead of its time. Like even more actresses are getting work done since that the film has been made. You know?
Do you think it was weird that Timothy Thatcher's character's name was Elle?
Oh yeah, that was interesting. No, yeah, he named her after Elle Fanning.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just thought.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think he just had such an amazing experience working with Elle Fanning and just thought she was like one of the best actresses in the world. And it really took him to another level. I think I need to rewatch Drive, and I've always been a big fan of Only God Forgives. I would almost
Mm.
say Only God Forgives. I rewatched that one. My only critique of that after seeing Too Old to Die Young is I wish Only God Forgives was like 2.5 hours long, you know?
Oh, it was.
I
Wish it was longer.
Yeah, because it's only like 90 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's
And
pretty short.
I think he had like a full on panic attack making that because the movie was so aggressively like violent and it's so disturbing. I'm pretty sure his editor or maybe even the producer like made him like cut it way down. I think he had like a panic attack in the edit and he edited it to be really short. But I think on paper the movie could have been like an hour 40 or an hour 50,
Mm.
but then he just ended up like thinking cuz and then again I think he might have even screened a crazier version in Cannes and then ended up cutting off of that because it got destroyed by the critics when it came out.
Yeah, people
And
booed and shit, which I just hate the idea of people booing a movie.
no, I know. And it's the same thing with Her Private Hell, where it's like some of the most hypnotic, transfixing, unique, spellbinding. I mean, it's like every word you could use. Like, this is like, this is just like the aesthetic quality of it, like the editing, the filmmaking quality of it is so incredible, and you're not going to see anything like Only God Forgives, Neon Demon, Her Private Hell. You're not going to see any of that in anyone else's films. And then these critics get on their high horse and they attack Nicholas Winding Refn. It's getting to a point where I'm like, don't you got to give him at least some credit? I mean, he is a legend, whether or not it's like John Waters, right? Like John Waters kind of
You just gotta.
he invented the notion of, campy. And in the
Yeah.
70s, people, oh, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. And then, fast forward to the 2020s and John Waters is a fucking icon. He got panned his entire career, I'm pretty sure. Like I think he did Hairspray, which I think was a success. Um, but this happens. Like there are filmmakers
Yeah.
that they have a vibe to them that is controversial, and they're not like afraid of making stuff that will get a big reaction. That's like what they're drawn to. And the critics just never catch up with it. And then they just kind of brainwash film viewers. And a lot of our friends love the film, and I really haven't even talked to anyone that's hated it yet. It's just all these
Yeah.
people on Letterboxd are seeing it, saying it's bad, and it really seems like it's kind of a similar thing as what happened with the Spielberg we talked about, where people are just they want like a 3-act structure, and they want it to be they want it to be Drive. He made one movie that was like really accessible, and everything kind of works out where no one critiqued the movie. It's like the one movie he made.
Yeah, your most
And
successful film shouldn't be like considered your best film.
yeah,
Like I
and
think
even
it's a
being
I
on
think it's a compliment to make an accessible movie and have it be good in your filmography. I don't think that should be like what people be like, this
yeah,
is their best movie. Like what? I don't know. That's just a weird.
no, it seems. And this is something I like forgot to bring up earlier, but I guess I can end on this unless. Do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to say?
Oh no, dude. The movie is very emotionally interesting. I don't, for some reason, I don't know how I got there because it is very hypnotic, the entire film. But by the end of it, I was kind of like, why am I moved right now? Like, I don't,
Mm.
this is so, yeah. And then it ended, I kind of just sat in my seat. And I don't know if we touched on the score too much, but the score is arguably maybe the best part of the movie. It's so
Oh
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. Pino
Um,
Donaggio, who did the score for "Don't Look Now,"
Crazy.
first score he
Also,
ever did.
it is kind of crazy to see the press interviews with Ref, and he's like, I yeah, he's gonna die soon, so I figured hopefully he can
Yeah,
get the thing done before. I'm like, dude, what the? He's like
yeah,
so
that was
just
funny.
candid and honest about like, yeah, I tried to make sure he was still alive. Thankfully, he's still alive. He's probably gonna die soon, but
No, because it does have that like giallo, like Italian horror movie. Like it has. I was gonna make the comparison. You know that movie, Barbarian Sound Studio?
I don't think so.
Oh, you would love that. That's like about like a Foley artist, like just doing like making noises and stuff for like an Italian horror movie.
Oh, that's great.
And watching Her Private Hell, that's almost like where I started to think like, wow, this is like almost the same kind of thing. Like it's almost like a movie. It's a movie about making a movie. And yeah, but no, what I was gonna say, one of my a big thesis of mine across all art forms, but
Mm.
especially in film, and it's my big defense of Francis Ford Coppola, who, similar to Refn, his most popular films everybody loves, but then people just get on their bullshit of stuff they're told to believe, and then they just believe it, and they say, "Oh yeah, he stopped making good movies like 50 years ago," but then it's like he's literally made like 20,
It's
30
crazy.
masterpieces, like including Megalopolis, which I loved and everyone hated. Uh, my idea, I
There's
don't know if anyone's.
like a niche internet crowd of like these young critics that do say they like it, but I don't know if they're trying to be like transgressive in that sense. But
Oh, it's also going to be a cult classic for sure, I think. Uh,
yeah, it's
but
very
no,
similar to this movie too. Yeah.
I have this idea, and I don't know if someone has said it word for word the way I'm going to say it, but it's this idea that style never stops. Style does not halt. If you're actually an artist and you're progressing and you're trying to like evolve and you're trying to do new things, you're trying to experiment, you're not being safe. If you're going in a direction as an artist, it'll keep going and going and going and going. That's why I love films made by people who are like On Death's Door or like a Last film. Like all the great Last films I just adore because it's the most distilled final version of a director's style. And I
Mm.
really got to give credit to Refn. I think of all the directors working today, he is one of the most inspiring in the sense that it really does seem like he is constantly pushing his style. And I think that's another reason why he ends up going to war with the critics nonstop. And that's what happened to Coppola. Coppola made two or three of the most accessible classics ever.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't want to stop, when he wants to, be a director his entire life, he's going to start trying 30 different things. And people get left in the dust because they go, oh, but this isn't The Godfather. But it's like, yeah, but Youth Without Youth is a complete masterpiece. Tetro is a masterpiece, you know? I mean, even like Rumblefish. I mean, even films that are like people like
Mm. Yeah.
or masterpieces, the Peggy Sue movie is a masterpiece. Like, it's like these movies, and by the time you get to Megalopolis, the style just keeps going. This isn't like, oh, he lost touch. He's a crazy old man. I don't believe that at all. I think this is, even though we're kind of talking about like great filmmakers not having like a sense of like the logical, like they have an emotional logic, right?
Yes.
But there is a logic to style progressing. And here's another great example across forms. James Joyce did Ulysses in 1922. It was published, or like 1920, and some people accused it of being like illegible. Like there are very much sequences in that book that are really difficult to understand, but there is some degree of plot. You kind of get brought back into it. He does like kind of experimental things, and then he'll bring you back into it. The stream of consciousness style, right? He has these incredible moments that are just unlike anything you've ever read because he's trying to do something new with language.
Mm.
And you know what his next fucking book was?
Did he do Finnegan's or am I?
Yeah, Finnegan's Wake, which he spent 20 years writing, and it's like completely illegible. It's literally like the plot, the thinnest description of the plot is it's an Irish family is asleep in Dublin, and it's like their dreams. But it's all like stream of consciousness, but it's like nonsense words. Like he's like combining words together and like making up words. If you read like a
Yeah.
sentence from it, it's literally like gibberish. You can't even like understand what you're reading. But that's the ultimate, most psyched out, and people thought he went crazy. He spent 20 years writing a book after Ulysses is already difficult enough to read, but it like has like it'll rein itself in. Like it'll go wild, but then it'll rein itself in. Finnegan's Wake is like off the deep end. Like it's the ultimate example of style never ends. Like a great artist like a James Joyce, he will not just he doesn't just stop. You know what I mean? Like these great innovation in the arts is a lot uglier. It's a lot more thankless than
Mm.
people want to know. And I'm not even saying that Refn is on the same level as Coppola or James Joyce. I mean, I think that they're both quite a bit higher up. But I will say that I am getting to a point with Refn where I'm like, yeah, I think he is a legend. I think he because again, for a lot of years I thought, okay, maybe he's kind of comparable to directors that are popular that I like that I
Yeah.
don't really love, like a Tarantino or Wes Anderson. I really don't like, but I can admit that he has ability. Uh,
Mm.
People like that, or even like an Inarritu. Like sometimes Inarritu will do something good, sometimes he won't. Or Alfonso Cuarón, like directors that are kind of like hit or miss. I kind of thought of Refn like that. Now
Huh.
I'm like, he's better than all of those guys. He's better than Tarantino. He's better than most like popular directors. He's better than Christopher Nolan by like a wide margin. I would still prefer, I still think Paul Thomas Anderson and like David Lynch types are better than Refn. I mean, so it's not like he's the greatest director ever, but Yeah, I think he's a legend. I think I've turned the corner with him where I hope he just keeps making stuff because it seems like he's just going to keep pushing his style until it's even crazier. And I can't wait. I would love to see even another series, but I hope it doesn't. I hope we get a quick turnaround because now I'm hooked. I would love to
Yeah.
see another new project.
Yeah, it's almost as if it does feel like he's treating himself as reborn because he doesn't refer to his near death experience as a near death experience. He calls it his death.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you feel in the sense that you are reborn, there is no limit to anything that you can do.
Yeah, that is true. He did talk about this movie like that. Like it just gave him a new, like, fresh kind of perspective because it really does seem like one of his most free movies. I do think if someone said to me Only God Forgives is a masterpiece, I like accept that. I think that's a good opinion.
Hmm.
But this to me, this film feels even more like what Only God Forgives like was going in the direction of, but it's still like because that movie gets pretty abstract as well, like in a certain kind of way, where it's like not really plot driven, even though there is a plot and it kind of plays out. It takes these giant leaps, like
Yeah.
in the ending and stuff. Like the ending is really fucking crazy, and it ends up being a really abstract film. But Her Private Hell is like way off the deep end. Like he
Hmm.
has totally decided not to care about plot at all, which really rocks. Which which is kind of funny too, because he really is, which is what people said about Lynch for so many years, that if he wanted to be a conventional director, he could have done that like a master, like as a master as well. Refn, if you watch Too Old to Die Young, you literally could watch that just from the standpoint of wanting to watch a crime drama like cartel show, and you would fucking love it. Like people that are
Hmm.
like into those kinds of things, like they would kind of be into it. And if you're into good filmmaking, you would be into it. And I don't even know how experimental like the show is, but there's just so many incredible sequences where it's like, yeah, he really can. He really can. I mean, again, I think he's really suited for longer form too. Like when he has these like really long sequences, it just is incredible to see. So
Oh yeah.
anyway, hopefully everybody sees this movie. I know it's probably like out of theaters already, but see it when it comes out, or get the Blu-ray.
Criterion.
Yep. Are you gonna do that quote?
I'll save it.
Okay. Well, anyway, God bless everybody. Get home safe. Bye bye.